Have you been experiencing internal financial struggles triggered by economic concerns? Are you feeling capped at your current income level and can't seem to realize your financial potential? Energy healer Jean Border has created an emotional freedom technique, or EFT, tapping protocol to help calm the inner voice that keeps you stressed. Claim your free copy at jeanborder.com/vow and say goodbye to those financial blockages. Welcome to another episode of the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast, Energy Work to Better Your Business, hosted by energy healer Jean Border. It's not just about dreaming, it's about making those dreams a practical reality. Subscribe to us via your favorite network by visiting our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com. Now, get ready. Your journey to success starts here.
Hello, everyone. It's your host, Jean Border, with another episode of the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast, where we talk everything business with a focus on energy work, mindset work, and how the psychology of your beliefs, habits, history, reality impacts not only your personal life, but also your business decisions. I have a special guest with me here today, Dr. Michelle Maidenberg. But before we get to her, I would like to remind everyone of a free resource that's available for you. jeanborder.com/vow, VOW, or click the link in the show notes below. For those of you who are having financial stress in your world, and you feel it in your body, and it's impacting your thoughts or your emotions or your feeling of safety, or maybe you just have a big decision you need to make concerning money and you want to do it from a place of calm rather than reaction or fear or uncertainty, do a few EFT tapping rounds. Very easy. I'm doing it right now. Just you can follow along with this with the EFT protocol that's in the PDF below, or jeanborder.com/vow. Very simple. I just did 2 rounds right there when I was explaining. Take advantage. Let me know how it worked out for you. I have very big faith that it helped calm down your nervous system, because that's what it does. And now on to the episode. Hi, Dr. Michelle Maidenberg. How are you?
Hi, Jean. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm actually excited about this, because in my head, this isn't a strictly business episode, but it is, because our emotional, mental well-being impacts all of our life, not just our personal life. So tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
So I want to piggyback what you said, because that is profound. Yes. Our emotions, our thoughts, our feelings impact our behavior, right? And we could either lean into being our best self and really have value-driven behavior, or we could lean out of it. And when we leave out of it, we're not as productive as we can be. We're not as satisfied as we can be. And we're not living a meaningful life in the way that we want to. So it has severe consequences. So we're not unidimensional, we're multidimensional. We have a lot of facets to us, and right. And we have a lot of roles also that we take on, and we need to be conscious of all of them, right? Both in our career, and otherwise. So a little bit about me. I have a practice, a private practice. I'm a psychotherapist in Harrison, New York, and I do wear many hats. I love everything that I do. I'm very passionate. I teach a graduate course at NYU, New York University, and it's integrating mindfulness practice into clinical practice. I'm a Psychology Today blogger, and I publish blogs every month, and it's on all different types of topics. I also have a YouTube channel, and every Thursday at 11 a.m. I publish a new guided meditation. So definitely invite you to explore that. I also have a nonprofit, which is called Through My Eyes, THRU My Eyes, and it offers free clinically guided videotaping for chronically medically ill individuals who want to leave a video legacy for their children and loved ones. Right now I'm looking to restructure. So I am definitely, and again, I want it to be more vast, more nationally. So I am looking for partners and, people to really come on board. And again, I just really want to carry out the mission of the organization. I've done over 300 videotapes, and it's been really incredibly therapeutic for, people I videotape. And last but not least, I am an published author, and I just recorded the audiobook to my book, which is very exciting. And I did it myself. So that was really fun. And it's called Ace Your Life, Unleash Your Best Self and Live the Life You Want. And it's predicated under ACE stands for acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. And it's really, I would say, a guidebook and a methodology, which I created for getting through any kind of stuckness. And it could be interpersonal, it could be intrapersonal, it could be business related. It really helps with it's kind of like a guidebook. So here it is. It has my colors, so I'm excited. And if you want to find out more about me, my website is the best place. It's my full name, MichelleMaidenberg.com. It's 2 L's. And it has also a quiz on stuckness. So where you fall on the spectrum of stuckness, there's a quiz you could take as well. So I invite everybody to come on and peruse.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you're very far down the road of creating a business. How did you get from where you started to where you are? It looks like it has so many different facets to it. Like you took a few detours along the way and liked what you saw. And so you picked up parts of the detour to be part of your main road, if you will.
That's a really good point. And that is very true. Because when I first, even with my education, it started out actually with my education because I really didn't know anybody in the field of practice that I'm practicing in, literally nobody. I didn't have any family, friends, and I had to discover it on my own. So the first thing I would say is to really be curious. Curiosity, really, really hone into your curiosity. I was curious because I knew I wanted to do some sort of family work just because of my upbringing. And I felt like that was where my passion was. So I started asking professors and other people about, the field of practice. And instead of, which I see happens quite often with, patients I work with, instead of just feeling so helpless and hopeless and shutting down, I said, let me be curious and be inquisitive and let me try out different things. And if I have detours or roadblocks, right, then I'll go on to the next thing. But then when I really, really hone into what I really want to do, I'm going to be certain, and I'm also going to feel satisfied because I've really put intentional effort into finding kind of my passions. So initially, even in terms of education, I knew I wanted to get a PhD, but I really wasn't sure what route to take because there's so many different ways to do that. I wasn't sure, do I want to get a dual master's? Anyway, what I ended up doing in my roadmap. And again, if you ask me would I have done things differently? Yes, I would have, but I'm very proud of what I did. Nevertheless. So, and I do have a PhD and 2 masters, and I probably could have accomplished that in a different way and maybe a shorter period of time, whatever. But the path was very natural. And when I look at the path, I really have gratitude for it because I realized that was meant to be. That's where I was supposed to be at that time. So originally I thought I wanted to teach full time, and I did get my feet wet, jump into that, and realize not for me. Too much bureaucracy, too much red tape. And I realized what a compliment I could teach because I love teaching and I don't have to dedicate my life to that full time. But I really want to work directly with, patients. Like that's where my passion is. And that's what I started doing. And I had, unfortunately, a friend who was dying of breast cancer. It was her second bout of breast cancer. And she was leaving a 9-year-old little girl, her only child. And she wanted to videotape and wanted to leave a video legacy for her daughter. And she had no clue on how to accomplish it. And I helped guide her. And I came up with over 200 questions, which I customized for people when I videotape them. That's customized on topics they want to talk about. That's very specific to their experience. So that's how that evolved. And I have to say, when I set my mind to something, I'm relentless. Yeah. But it's a methodical, task-oriented, problem-solving approach. I don't want to say, and people say to me, and I'm also very disciplined, I would say, even with my exercising, my health, etc. People are like, How do you do that? Like as if I have some pixie dust or something and I'm spilling it on myself every morning, like literally. I'm like, no, like, do you see my veins? They're no different than yours. I promise you. Like we're all made of the same blood veins. Yeah, exactly. I said the difference is that I'm organized. I am organized. I am very habituized. So I do things routinely. And I don't guide my behavior on my thoughts and feelings. And that's the most important point. I don't guide them at all on my thoughts or feelings because guess what? I wake up many mornings feeling it happened actually this morning. I wake up and I don't feel like working out, right? And I work out pretty religiously 6 days a week and if need be 5 days. But you think I wake up every morning like, woohoo, let me go work out. No, there's many mornings like this morning because I did not sleep well last night at all. Like literally I was having very bad leg cramps and I was up almost every hour. It was horrific. Yeah. And I woke up in the morning and I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I could muster up enough energy. And guess what? I said to myself, okay, so today you're not going to do your weight workout, which is totally fine. You can make it up on the weekend or not, but you're going to still do your cardio because that's what keeps you energized during the day. That's what helps you with your focus. And I did. Like I did half my workout, but I didn't just like chuck the whole thing because that's not okay. And I also didn't let myself off the hook or rationalize my behavior. I said to myself, this is what I do no matter what, because it's important to me. And if I can't do it today, I'm going to find another time to do it. And if I can't find another time to do it, right, I'm going to try my best, right, to not beat myself up, to not have self-deprecating thoughts, but my behavior is going to follow suit and it's going to be in line with my values no matter what, because in terms of values, there is no contingencies. There's no contingencies. I can't say I don't feel like it. I can't have a rationalization for my behavior. I am going to behave in line with my values no matter what. And that builds my confidence on a daily basis. I go to sleep at night, literally saying to myself, I accomplished almost everything I wanted to today. And if I don't, I say to myself, in that specific value, I didn't lean into quite the way I wanted to today. And tomorrow I'm going to make it a point and really focus. And that's going to be, where my effort lies tomorrow. So I'm not bad. I'm not wrong. I'm not horrible. I'm not ineffective. I'm just like a human being that's not perfect. Yeah. And that's quite okay.
I have so many parts of of things that I want to get back to, but since you finished up on that,
yeah.
It sounds as though you either grew up this way or you trained yourself over time to be laser focused on an outcome and let the emotions sit over here for a bit while you take the actions necessary to reach that outcome. We so often allow the story in our head to become so big, and typically stories lean towards the negative rather than the positive.
Yes.
That we sabotage ourselves before we ever start.
Yeah, and it's not only a story, it becomes part of our identity. It's the way we see ourselves, it's the way we talk, it's the way we walk, it's the way it literally kind of wreaks havoc because it takes over our life. I have a sign on my door if you walk into my door and it says, don't believe everything you think. Because there are so many things driving our thoughts and feelings. And often it's not in line with our authentic, empowered self. It's in line with a person that's, insecure or, doesn't feel good enough or whatever the case is. And by the way, if somebody looked at me, like just off the bat, my accomplishments, who I am, whatever, and people do have this perception of me like, wow, like she has it all together and, she's so confident. And yes, I am confident because I know that I behave in line with my values and I make an effort to do that. But I have insecurities, let me tell you, and they come up all the time. Literally all the time, and I catch myself. It just happened yesterday. I was interacting with a friend and they were talking to me and they were saying something really lovely to me. And my mind, I saw it. I was like, what? Like, it was like, nah, they don't really think that way. And yeah, they're just saying that. Or like, what was I saying? Like, they're thinking of that now, but they don't really know me. Like it was like this flood of insecurities that kind of came up. And I stopped and I actually expressed that to them. I'm like, it's so funny because you're sitting here and telling me this, and what's going through my mind right now, like, gosh, and I'm like, that's the brain. But why does our brain do that? And that's really the important part of it. Our brain constantly, it's our executive functioning, right? Moderator, I'm going to say. And it constantly puts us in a position where it's, again, securing, right? And protecting us from danger and discomfort. And it does it incessantly at all times. And I could tell you, I know where my insecurity comes from, based on my childhood experiences, based on how I was socialized, and I could go on and on. Like, it is so clear to me why that comes up for me. And like, I'm doing a lot of inner child healing work. I need to, because it's really ingrained in my neural pathways. Like, it's petrified there and it's integrated. And I need to work on really, kind of like, it's fragmented. I need to integrate it so that I could have a better sense in the present moment that I'm my adult self. I'm not that child, even though it feels that way sometimes. And even though I kind of default to that place, the adaptations, the coping skills, all of those things. And that's what we're constantly battling all the time, all the time.
It's very interesting when I talk to people who come from the point of view with your history, because mine was the total opposite. My parents always told me I could do anything I wanted to do. I could be anything I wanted to be. If I decided I wanted it, they were go for it. They allowed me to try everything. They praised me whether it was good or bad. They were proud of me whether I was terrible or not, So, of course, on the other hand, I try to be better for them, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I got something out of it, but I knew that they just thought that I could do it. So why would I want to let them down when they just thought I could do it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I have to say, some people in that position, because I see a lot of people, there are many people even in that position that still feel insecure and not good enough because they feel like they can never live up to that, or they feel that, they're anxious that they're going to always disappoint. Yeah, or that they're never ever going to get full acceptance. It's so complex, our relationships with our parents and our caretakers and like our upbringing. And listen, it's also we're recording this on election day, just saying, I know it's going to air much later, but like, gosh, I mean, the level of anxiety that's coming up for people, and in terms of like, talk about values, right? What's important to people and why it's important to them is so vast and cuts across so many different factors. And it's very personal. Like, people feel that way or particular ways because of what they're connecting to that's meaningful to them. And it's fascinating for me to listen to. And I have to say, because it's so on my mind. It's just happened this morning. I'm working with these two little young girls, one is 16 and one is 13. And their mom was diagnosed with cancer and she is not doing well. And last night, unfortunately, I was with the dad and we had to express to the girls that it's imminent, she died this morning.
Oh.
Yeah. And, life is so short, gosh, and like, it's also, and this was, by the way, a couple of months, all this happened. And it's so uncertain. And like, we don't have time to waste. I can't say that enough. And I know that sounds pretty cliche, at times. I get I have the experience of seeing people's pain and adversity on a daily basis. And things happen to people, like, I can't even make this stuff up, like, that are so out of their control at times. And all we could do is like be in a place of acceptance and roll with the punches and like still kind of leaning into being our best self and experience the pain and the grief and whatever else is going on with us and walk away with a better understanding of ourselves, life lessons, connecting to the world, and the people we love. And that's what life's all about. Like, do we want to leave this earth just feeling so unsatiated and ineffective and like disconnected? And I talk to people who are dying. That's not what's important to people. No, we're not taking anything with us. We're not. But you know what we're taking? Like our relationships and our connections and the impact we made on the world and the purpose that we've kind of assigned to what's important to us. That's what we take with us. And that's what we leave behind. I'll never forget, I have to tell you this, I went to this workshop and, it was a acceptance and commitment therapy workshop. And the person who is the esteemed person who created is Steve Hayes. And I just think the world of him, like literally. He blurbed my book, which I am forever grateful. But anyway, he said something at the beginning of the workshop and I felt like this, I felt like somebody like, he said, do you remember your grandparents? And we were all like, yeah. Do you remember your great grandparents? And some of us were like, do you remember your great great grandparents? And we're like, he's like, that's going to be you. Yeah. And my heart sank when I heard that because I was like, oh my goodness. Like, yeah, it just takes a generation or two and poof, it's like you never existed. Like literally. And when I heard that, like it really made an impact on me. It like I'll never forget that. I should tell him that when I see him. But yeah, but I was so profoundly affected by that, and I think that's why I write and do the things that I do, because I really do want to leave a legacy. But, and it doesn't take much. That's the thing. It doesn't take much, to like notice somebody or like connect to somebody or really be mindful of your actions on a like, minute by minute basis. And even work, if we're talking about career and work related. I'm a very like task oriented person and sometimes I'm rushing to my office like to get here on time and whatever. And I find like I used to just like kind of go from the elevators, kind of zooming into my office and I wasn't even like, kind of taking a moment and saying to the receptionist, like, how are you? And how was your weekend? And whatever. And I'm like, no, I don't care how rushed you are. Like you need to stop because your formative value is thoughtfulness and kindness. And you need to stop no matter how, like wake up earlier or whatever you need to do. But that's not okay. And that's not who you want to be. And so I really, like I said, I'm very, very in touch with my values. And whenever I take action that aligns with it, I take note of it. And it helps to build my confidence. Productive people and people who do things that they're proud of are confident people. Yes.
This is going to seem off topic, but it's really not. Early on in our discussion, you mentioned that you took a weird path in your education and you probably should have done it differently. And in my head, I'm like, oh, please don't go there because so many people have that belief. I did it wrong. If I'd have done this, things would be better. No. You went through the journey you were meant to go through to make you who you are today. There was a singer who I really liked his early stuff because I was young and it was, I'm not going to say bubblegum. It was not deep. I wasn't an old cynical person. I didn't want that. George Michael. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah,
but he sang with a group called.
Oh, of course I know George Michael. He was like my era. I love George.
I heard him on an interview all that time in my life. I just wish I'd never, recorded that music. And I'm like, I love that music. You're discounting that whole period of time just because you outgrew it and you went to something else. But think of all the thousands or more people who really were uplifted by that music that now you're denigrating, right? So he wouldn't have been in the place, in his progression had he not done that.
Yes.
So to discount part of your life, that's that voice in our head saying, oh, you're not perfect. You're not perfect. No, but you're human.
Yes. Well, so two things. It's a really important point, and thank you for kind of circling back to it. So two things that I wanted to say. One is, I call it a pivot. Yeah. It's not a mistake. There's never, ever mistakes. It's a pivot. Yes. And, I think about it, like I use the metaphor of like these boulders, right? We always have these boulders that kind of get in our way. Like we could decide to just stand in front of the boulder and not move because there's this big boulder in front of us, right? And a lot of people do shut down and they get very helpless and hopeless. All we have to do literally is pivot. So we may have to like walk around the boulder. We may have to like climb up on top of the boulder and walk over it, like whatever. But like, if plan A doesn't work, there's B, C, D, and the whole alphabet, right? People say, oh, I can't find anything. Like, I don't like to exercise. I can't find anything I like to do. No, that's like not okay. Like there's A, B, C, D, like find the thing that you appreciate. In terms of our journey, I do want to say this. People have a lot of regrets in life, and they'll say to me, I don't know why I chose to date that person. Like, what was I thinking? Or, whatever, right? And, there's a woman, here's a really good example, because some things we can't reverse. There's things we can't reverse. There's a woman that I work with who I adore. And she, she's, I'd say like in her 70s, let's say. And she's married, but never had any children. And she regrets it. She regrets it. And of course, there's nothing she can do about it today, right? Now go back in time. But she's so clear because we've talked about it and I helped her kind of come to this place where she understands that she wasn't in that space at that time. She just wasn't, right? And she could appreciate that although now at her age, she's thinking and feeling differently about it. In her journey, that wasn't where she was at. And she could also, she could have some grief and loss and sadness about it. But the question is, what would she get out of having children that would make her feel fulfilled? And does that mean that we just kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater? No. Like, what does she want? What was important to her? And how could she, not in the same way and not in this exactly, feel the same way about it, but how could she recreate whatever she's looking for in her current life in the present moment? Because our suffering, if we are in the past and we're constantly regretful, that leads to suffering because it's the wish that things were different. Can't go from there. There is nothing that could be done about this and you will just suffer. But it's moving forward and saying, okay, this is what's important to me. These are my core values. How do I want to live out the rest of my life having those in mind? What do I want to be doing? And that's what we're talking about. And she said to me, she's like, gosh, like I'm so less anxious than I used to be. I used to sit with this extreme anxiety, feeling so unfulfilled and so fearful. And so, and it's a whole new way of looking at things. So a lot of it has to do with our mindset, really shifting kind of the way we see ourselves, the way we see others, the way we see the world. It's never, ever too late. And I like exclamation point.
And
Never.
And you brought up something that happens so frequently. People come to me, clients come to me, and they're so focused on, well, this happened and that happened and this happened and that happened. And so they recreate the feelings of those events in their body and they recreate them and they recreate them and they recreate them. And no matter how hard you try to steer them towards something else, they have been so ingrained and focused on the past that they don't see that you're making a choice not to live in your current reality and not to build towards a different future because you're so stuck on something you cannot change, whether that's a bad business decision, a bad relationship, a bad financial choice.
Yes.
It's done.
Absolutely.
Get over it. I mean, that's a very lousy thing to say in your head. You have to say, okay, that has happened. I can choose to make that so big that it destroys my future, or I can say, thank you very much. I'm done with you. I'm over it. I'm making a different choice beginning today. But that's so hard.
Yeah. So that's my whole chapters on acceptance.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So two things I want to say, and then I will kind of explain what you were just saying. So we have neural pathways, okay, that gets formed since we're literally infants. And they, it's very hard to change our neural pathways. They get literally, it's like kind of, right, like a road, okay? And we're always looking to repeat patterns of behavior, kind of ways of being, because again, our brain takes the path of least resistance. It doesn't like to work hard. So we become very habitualized in our thoughts and our feelings and our behavior. And it's constantly, that's why like people always say to me, I don't understand why I keep meeting the same type of person. Like, what? Yeah, you're going to keep meeting the same kind of person, and you're going to keep going into the same types of businesses and repeating business, like, mistakes, because your brain is going to naturally do that because it's looking to fix and repair your past, always. But it does it in ways and with people that it's impossible, not feasible, and not healthy. So we recreate, and then what happens is, again, our brain says, you see, right? This is the way it is, or this is the way people are, or this is what my demise is, or this is what I have to be accepting of for the rest of my life. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's very self-deprecating, and it's, again, repeated unhealthy patterns of behavior. So our brain and our bodies and our minds perpetuate that. It will always do that. Always. So unless we're self-aware and unless we challenge those beliefs, we are going to do that. And that's just the way it is. So that's really important. It's really important to face what some of those kind of, neural pathways where they're leading us so we could really actually make fundamental change. Not so easy to do, I have to tell you, because that's, like I said, you're streamlined. You're constantly in that position where you're constantly getting fed that information in your mind, and that's difficult. That's really difficult because it brings up, again, if you challenge yourself, it brings up fear. It brings up insecurity. It brings up a lot of negative emotions that we're avoiding to begin with. And we have been avoiding. And I always ask people, okay, if you did it that way, then what would show up? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, let's talk about that a little bit, right? Let's get under the hood a little bit. And they're like, oh, yeah. And then I said, I have to tell you this story because it was like so fascinating. There was a little boy here. I don't see, young children, but I'll see middle school. And he's such a, he's like, you want to hug him. He's so cute and sweet and lovely. And he has like a wonderful, parents and everything, family. But he has impulsive behavior. He does. And at times he'll act out on his impulsive behavior and it's getting him into trouble, which you can imagine. So something happened with somebody at school and I looked at him and I said to him, do you want to change this? And he hesitated. And again, you might say to yourself, what? Why would this kid hesitate? Like, think about it. He's getting like negative consequences. There are social ramifications. He has two moms. His moms are getting like extremely disappointed, with him. He's actually getting punished, right? So there are like actual consequences to his behavior. Why would this kid even hesitate to say that he doesn't want to change his behavior? Like, mind blowing. But I knew to ask the question. And then I said, oh, really? So there's a part of you that doesn't want to change it? So he looked at me, he didn't understand why he felt that way. That's the thing, because he's little, right? He didn't understand. So I said, what do you, how could you explain that? Like, what do you think? And again, he's young. He's not as developed, in terms of his cognition. So what do you think that is? He's like, I don't know. And he really didn't know. And I said, I wonder if there's a part of you that doesn't really want to accept this about yourself and doesn't want to face the fact that you have this part of you that's really impulsive and could do things that are so out of the realm of who you are, because you are the most kind and compassionate and loving little boy. I know you are. I see you. And when you're in your wise mind, you would not, like, I'm talking to you intellectually right now. And I said to him, I'm like, would you ever do something like that? He was like, no. I go, I know. I go, literally, you get possessed. Right? You get triggered and activated and you get possessed. Like, you're not in your right mind almost, right? I was like, do you want to accept that there's a part of you that could actually get to that place sometimes? And he looked at me and it was so, God, I took a deep breath. he said no. And he welled up with tears, but he didn't want me to see. He felt like a little shameful. But I said to him, I go, that's really hard to admit to yourself, isn't it? And it was such a moment. And after that, I saw a shift in him. It was so fascinating. I saw the shift, and he trusted me on a different level. He felt gotten. He felt like I understood him, and he was acting a little bit differently toward me. It was like so beautiful, and I'm helping him with the impulsivity, and it opened him up to seeing himself. And that, I hope, and it will be life-changing for him, literally. It really will be. And he's fortunate. I mean, I wish I had that when I was that age, literally. I really do. I'm doing a lot of makeup right now. But like, he has the ability to have that insight when he's like in middle school, like, phew, right? Yeah. So we don't want to face ourselves. No, we don't want to see those imperfect parts. They're threatening. They're very, very threatening. And that's what life's all about. You know, when you finally realize that you actually are a better version of yourself when you face yourself rather than you don't, life transforms like to a crazy level.
Yeah, when I work with people, a lot of times the first place I go is trying to create awareness, because so many times we fall into the habit and we repeat the pattern so many times we don't even notice that I did it here in this part of my life, but I'm repeating that pattern with my finances, with my relationship, with my business decisions, with my marketing, with my sales, with whatever it is, with my health.
Uh-huh.
And so creating that awareness of I'm allowing my past to negatively impact my future and to steal my joy. That's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Does it make you happy? Does it help you reach your goal? Does it? And that's not even a really good thing, because once you reach your goal, there's always something past that, right? The goal is not the end all and be all. That's just the next train station on your journey, if you will, right?
Right. Yeah.
But if you don't even know where you want to go, what train do you get on?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Yeah. And many people are in that space. You know, it's really doing like kind of a deep dive sometimes. Sometimes it's like kind of, you know, going through whatever you need to, right, in order to find what you need to also, right? Like process of elimination or whatever you need to go through. You know, what in terms of like the book and kind of my methodology, because, you know, I want to explain how it works in terms of getting through stuckness, because I think it's important to understand that conceptually, you know, and what I do explain, you know, is I start off by kind of teaching people about their brain and about their mind, because we have to understand that so that we could give ourselves that kind of space to grow. And then I do a whole section on our values, because my work is really based fundamentally on our core values, and it's a guide to action. It leads the way. We don't have to kind of wonder, because it's there. It's actually there. And then I go into acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. You know, I made it a point, you know, because it's 3 parts, right? To start off the first chapter of each part talking about the barriers. What gets in the way of us, of our self-acceptance, our self-compassion, and our empowerment? And that's so important, again, to understand. So when it's coming up for you, that you're able to identify it and make the shift that you need to. And then the latter part of each section talks about how do we make the change, right? And there's a lot of experiential exercises. And then I end off actually each chapter with a guided meditation. There's a QR code. Yeah, which is, you know, who I am, right? And I obviously, you know, it's from my guided meditations, but it helps, again, when we're able to be in the present moment and we're able to really be grounded and we're able to kind of feel ourselves here in the here and now. That's when we could really integrate the information, because we do need space between the thinking and doing. We need to create that space. And when, you know, I talked about like that kind of middle schooler being possessed, people will convince me that they didn't even think, that they just behaved. And then I slow them down and they're like, oh yeah, actually, I did have that thought, but I kind of just denied it and I just like ignored it, right? And I distracted from it. And I'm like, yeah, because we're moving too quickly. And, the brain is an interesting, organ because like the rest of our body, the way we build up is we exert energy, right? So if we want to build up our bicep, we do curls. Our brain is the opposite. The rest and the space is what creates, again, fortifying the brain. So it's kind of counterintuitive, at least we kind of experience it that way because we're doing things so different. We're not used to it. And we're never taught how to do that, unfortunately, which that's a whole other conversation. Because I personally think that we do need a space for children to learn social emotional learning skills and like mindfulness skills fundamentally to be, kind of whole humans, but that's a whole other thing. But we need to learn that. We're never taught acceptance. We're never taught compassion, not self-compassion. We're taught compassion towards others. That's where the focus lies. And this is social culturally across cultures, across race, religion, like socioeconomic status, like gender, whatever, this is, I speak to people in different countries. I do a lot of podcasts and everyone that I talk to could relate to what I'm talking about. And I'm sometimes like, it's so wondrous. It's like, I don't care where you are and what you're experiencing, you could kind of relate to this, to stuckness. Like who doesn't experience stuckness somehow, some way? So it's so satisfying, like when I connect on this way and get people to understand that. And it's so wonderful because people like will use the lingo with me. They're like, I didn't lean into my values exactly the way I wanted to this week. And I'm like, yeah,
Cool.
No, and I'm talking about like people of all different ages. Like that's what's so cool. Like you have like this middle schooler saying that, and I'm like, what? And then I have like these older adults. It's like, yes, you're getting it. Like you got it. It's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes people aren't consciously aware that their decisions are based on their values, their history, their belief system, right?
Yeah.
So if you haven't even fleshed out in your head what is the most important to you, you kind of flounder a little bit sometimes.
Not only flounder, you don't live a life of purpose and meaning. Like literally. Yeah. Literally, you don't live a life of purpose and meaning. If I said to you, do you want to leave this earth without living a life of purpose and meaning? What would you tell me? I don't care who you are. You're going to tell me like, that sounds really sad. And I don't want to be leaving the earth like that. And I don't want anybody to want to leave the earth like that. Like I want them to feel so worthy and so capable and so lovable that they want better for themselves, not for anybody else, but for themselves.
Talk to me a little bit about your nonprofit.
Thank you. Yeah, it's such a like, it's like my heart, my passion. I did it because of my friend. I told you, and I thought about, how egregious it is for people who are, deaf and dying, and they don't have a space where like actually, a lot of people leave letters and like written, legacies, but to put the voice, and also the life lessons that they want to convey to others and obviously their offspring and family has been so incredibly profound. And the families are so, so thankful. There's so much gratitude. And the people, even more importantly, the people that I videotape, they are so incredibly thankful because they say to me all the time, I hear like, I would never have done this if I didn't hear about this. I wouldn't have known what to talk about. It was hard for me to just even accept that this is kind of where I'm at. And I probably would have like waited too long. I just hear all these messages. And, sometimes when I'm with them, obviously they bring me to tears because sometimes, again, if they're very emotive and connected and they, sometimes the messages are so heartfelt and like emotional, like I'll get really sad, and they'll say to me, are you okay? They'll say to me like, Yeah, they'll say to me, like, how do you do this? Like, I don't understand how you do this. And the fact that people are willing to share intimate details of their life with me and invite me in their home, I don't care if it's by video, whatever the case is such an honor. Gosh. And it's so enriching to hear people's stories, like what matters to them, what's important to them, what they want to convey to their children. It is so unbelievable. And sometimes, parents will tell me like, oh, I don't feel comfortable, like, kind of my child listening to this yet. I want to wait till they're whatever, age. Or sometimes they'll say, and I've had that happen quite a number of times, and I don't know when they eventually do. Sometimes they'll circle back to me, but that's also like amazing. They always have this. And, I do go through, again, it depends on where people are at, but I'll go through, what would you say to your child when they're graduating high school? And what would you say to your child when they first started dating? And what would you say to your child if they chose to marry? And what would you say to your child if they had their own children? What lessons would you want them to know and learn? And, so they're very deep questions, for those who are open to that. Obviously, it doesn't have to go there, I had this man who I videotaped, and he said to me, no matter what, I do not want to talk about my mother. Like, my mother was an alcoholic. She left the family when I was very young. And I was like, of course, like everybody has their own personal spin to it on what they feel comfortable talking about. And I highly respect whatever they share with me.
The difference between the written and the visual and the audio, my mother, this is just a memory thing, right?
Yeah.
My mother, not always, but during the last part of my career, I was in different cities than my parents, right? And that happens a lot. Kids move away. But I had dogs, and every day, this is back in the day of answering machines, right? Every day, my mother would call and sing with my dogs. Now, I had 3 big white Samoyeds, and they loved their voice. So they would howl while she would sing. And I was able to get one of those recordings off the recorder, and I have it on all my computers.
Oh, wow.
It's hilarious. I also have on my phone, I still have where my dad would leave me messages and when my mom would leave me messages. So there's power in that. Yes, it's one thing seeing what they wrote, where their head was at that time, but being able to hear their voice, there's a different connection that happens.
And seeing them visually and hearing them say whatever they're saying. Speaking about that, I have a dear friend. She was like one of my closest friends. She died of cancer. And she left me a message on my phone, and I still have it. And every time, like, I'm feeling so, like, I don't know, like I want to connect to her and I feel sad, I listen to it. Yeah. And it just brings me so much joy. Like, I'm so happy I have that piece of her, like literally, like it's, yeah.
And it brings back the emotions that you feel in your body that elevate I'm going to use energy terms. It elevates your vibration. It elevates your feelings at that moment. And it gives you peace a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
Just the memory gives you peace.
Right. You're tapping into those neural networks like I talked about. Yeah. And you're tapping into the nervous system, because our nervous system, again, holds memories.
Yes.
Right. That's why sometimes we'll have a visceral response to something if something gets triggered, right? Because our nervous system remembers it. So yes, if you felt connection and joy with this person, like, it brings it right back there. And that definitely happens, when I listen to her recording, and it's like, it's so special. I video recorded my grandparents too.
Oh.
And all of them. And it's so special. And I have their picture, like just this morning. It was so interesting. I have their picture like on my, dresser. And I was feeling I needed a little guidance from them, and I looked at them, the picture, and I was like, speak to me. Like, I want your energy, and so we do, we always want that connection to people we love, no matter what, whether they're here or not, Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this conversation, but unfortunately, we're coming up near the end of our time together. But before we go, you've got some resources for our listeners. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, of course, if you're interested, you could get my book. The best place really is on my website. It's my full name, Michelle with 2 L's, and Maidenberg is Maidenberg. And again, it has a quiz, which identifies kind of your area of stuckness, if you want to take that. It has all my blogs. It has all of my podcasts. It has just like a vast amount of resources. Of course, you could subscribe to my guided meditations every Thursday. You could subscribe to Psychology Today and get my articles. So, any way that you could, I guess, tap into your authentic and best self, like, I hope that I'm helping you with that.
And you're also all over social media, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, all of those, Instagram.
Yes, definitely.
Right.
Yes.
And we'll have the links below for those of you who have access to that. Just click on the link below. We'll take you right to her. Do you happen to have any final thoughts before we close out this episode?
Yeah, I just, I think because it's election day and there's so many people that are sitting with so much anxiety, like especially today. And also I told you that story about those two little girls. I'm actually seeing the oldest child, 16-year-old and a 13-year-old. I'm seeing the 16-year-old tonight. Her mother just died this morning. So I'm feeling quite emotional, I would say. Yeah, just to like I said, life is so short, gosh, and things happen in a split second. We don't have time to waste. Just to always remember that every moment is precious.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that is so powerful. You don't have time to waste. And regret is not a great thing while you're able to do it.
That's right.
And then take action, right?
Yes.
But I want to thank you for being here. This has been such an interesting conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And to the listeners out there, thank you also for tuning in once again. I really appreciate that you choose to spend your time with me and my guests. I think the guests that come on here are the ones that are supposed to be here. And they all have the right message at the right time for someone who is listening. And so I appreciate that greatly. So thanks for tuning in. This is your host, Jean Border, with the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast. Until next time.
We trust you enjoyed this episode of the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast. Energy work to better your business. Hosted by energy healer Jean Border. Remember to visit our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey.